In this video, I want to briefly discuss why I think everybody should learn about wild edibles today and not wait for a later date. Most people think that learning about wild edibles is primarily necessary as a survival skill. For example, if you're stranded out in the woods and you are prepared, you know what to eat, you can feed yourself, and you can weather the situation better. This is true. I think it's a great thing to learn about wild edibles and be prepared. And yet I think there's a more practical application for wild edibles. The number one reason for eating edible weeds, simply put, is because they are the highest quality, best foods available to us. Most of, if not all, non-wild edible food has been modified, genetically modified in some way, has had chemicals or pesticides added to it, or has been otherwise processed in a manner that's not healthy for us. In addition to GMOs, the vast majority of prepackaged food is also loaded with preservatives, additives, and other things that are meant to prolong the shelf life of the food. I invite you to conduct this experiment. Visit any grocery store, be it health food store or conventional store, and start reading the labels. And you'll notice that crackers, breads, cheeses all have ingredients in there that are hard to pronounce. We don't really know what they are. They're not food. They're preservatives specifically aimed at increasing the shelf life. And this to me is completely absurd and sad that when you go to a place where you're supposed to feed yourself, buy fuel for your life, it's loaded with toxins, it's loaded with poisons. There have been countless articles written about how organic food doesn't live up to its own hype. And I'm specifically referring to the big, huge corporations that grow organic foods for stores. I bet that if you've ever grown a garden, you have noticed the difference between store-bought kale and your own kale that you grow in your garden. And I'm guessing that huge operations that grow organic food, they still cut corners in order to maximize profit, and therefore the quality of the food suffers. Another example of this is when I was a kid, I remember buying strawberries at the grocery store, organic, delicious strawberries, and when you cut those strawberries in half, the center was dark red, and if you left those strawberries sitting for even just an hour, they would start to deteriorate. They would get really soggy and start to rot. These days, you can buy organic strawberries, you cut them open, they're white on the inside, and they can literally last for weeks out in the open air, sitting on the counter. Something is not the same. Something has changed. My intention is not to scare you away from shopping at grocery stores or eating organic foods. I think that in this day and age, it's unavoidable that we buy some of our food from stores. Some of it's going to be organic, some of it's not. And that's just what we have to deal with. It's realistic. It's not realistic to say, I'm never going to do it again. Wild edibles are sort of our last resort, our only hope at natural 100% edible food. Eating wild edibles is a realistic, practical way we can reduce our dependence on shopping at supermarkets and increase the amount of great, healthy, nutritious food we eat. In my own practice, during the spring, summer, and fall months, I harvest enough wild edibles that 60 to 80% of my diet during those months consists of a wild crafted diet. And again, based off all the things I've been saying for the last few minutes, that's 60 to 80% of my food that I don't need to go to the grocery store to purchase. So there you have it. That is the best reason I can think of why every single person should start learning about wild edibles. There are many great resources for learning about wild edibles. I am responsible for many of these. I have published numerous wild edible videos that are available for free on YouTube. I also have a great wild edible app that you can look up through the Apple iStore. If you don't have an iPhone, no problem. Go to sergeyboutenko.com and look at my free wild edible web app. I'm also starting a 17-week course with Tira Warner that is going to go in depth and teach you guys about wild edibles.